Hello, this is Sharon. I'm reading from the Providence Journal, and today is June 18th. For the weather, we will have a high of 74, low of 65. It will be humid with a shower or two. Tomorrow, June 19th, the high will be 87, low 65. It'll be warmer, and in the p.m. there's a chance of a thunderstorm. Friday, June 20, high will be 83, low will be 64. It will be breezy in the afternoon. Saturday, June 21st, the high will be 84, low will be 66. It will be sunny to partly cloudy. Sunday, June 22nd, high will be 87, low 72, with partly sunny, and it will be very warm. Savoring the honor. Providence chef named Best Chef, Northeast by James Beard Awards. Article by Gail Ciempa, Providence Journal. Sky Hanel Kim, chef at Gift Horse in Providence, has been added to the prestigious list of local James Beard winners after being named Best Chef, Northeast, at the 2025 James Beard Foundation Awards. The 35th Restaurant and Chef Award Gala was held at the Lyric Opera of Chicago on Monday, June 16th. The James Beard Awards are considered the Oscars of the food world, recognizing exceptional talent in restaurants and the culinary arts. Wins have been rare for Rhode Island restaurants, but Kim's victory makes her the third Best Chef winner from Rhode Island and the second in 3 years. In 2023, Sherry Pocknett and her Sly Fox Den 2 restaurant in Charlestown took home the James Beard Foundation Award for Best Chef Northeast. The restaurant has since closed. Al Forno's Johan Killeen and the late George Gurman won the original Regional Best Chef Award in 1993. Aunt Carrie's The Narragansett Clam Shack and Onlyville, New York System in Providence both have America's Classic Awards from James Beard. 3 other finalists from Rhode Island fall just short. Oberlin was up for Outstanding Restaurant, a national category that celebrates a restaurant with consistent excellence in food, atmosphere, hospitality, and operations. It was a first for owners Ben Sukle and Bethany Cagliaro. The Oberlin 2.0 moved into the large, new space at 266 Westminster Street at the end of 2023, and they've had a growing national profile since. For Derek Wagner of Nick's on Broadway, the 5th time was the charm to make the short list of finalists for a James Beard Foundation Award for Best Chef Northeast. Nikhil Naker was on the finalist list for Emerging Chef, also a national category. It recognizes one who displays exceptional talent, character, and leadership ability, and who is likely to make a significant impact in years to come. Guests enjoy his dishes at NIMKI, his residency at the Providence Speakeasy, the Cortland Club. Gift Horse's Kim was also nominated by James Beard in 2024 as she was named a semifinalist in the Emerging Chef category. It's not surprising she's been noticed. You can taste her talents and Korean heritage in every dish. The vibe. There is a fabulous energy in the small place, whether you sit around the Horseshoe Bar or at one of the tables. Get there at opening to harness your corner of the fun. The cocktails set the mood. What to eat? Start with local oysters, as many as you can. Enjoy them with Kim's delightful kimchi mignotte. Pow! Don't miss the smoked fish dip with Calabrian peppers served with puffed nori chips. The warmed butter scallop roll will make you forget any lobster roll. Ben Sukle has been a James Beard finalist twice in the regional category for Best Chef, Northeast, for Oberlin and the now-closed Birch. They were in 2017 and 2018 respectively when it was 4th nomination in 5 years. It's the first James Beard nomination for Oberlin co-owner Bethany Cagliaro, who was the finalist for Outstanding Restaurant. Suspended mass lawyer sparred prison time. Attorney tells of own substance to use journey. Article by Katie Mulvaney. A federal judge on June 12th spared a suspended Massachusetts lawyer from serving prison time for trying to smuggle synthetic cannabis to 2 men being held at the Donald W. Wyatt detention facility in Central Falls in December 2023. U.S. District Judge Melissa R. DeBose sentenced Teresa M. DeJoseph of Woburn, Massachusetts, to 3 years of supervised release, the first 6 months on home confinement with GPS monitoring. She realizes that what she's done is a crime, DuBose said. The judge stressed that some people are sober for the first time when they are behind bars, and that smuggling contraband into a prison puts that sobriety at risk. DuBose acknowledged the humiliation DeJoseph will continue to live with. I couldn't look myself in the mirror, end quote. The court heard moving commentary about DeJoseph's recovery journey, dedication to treatment, and helping scores of others in the Alcoholics Anonymous community. She sometimes attends 3 meetings a day and marked 1 year of sobriety on May 8th. More than 110 people observed the hearing in support via remote access. Her lawyer, Daniel Godet, told of DeJoseph's suffering trauma at age 15 and then spending decades relying on opiates and alcohol to numb her pain. According to court papers, she was raped by a family friend. The charges were dismissed after DeJoseph was too traumatized to testify at trial. The effect of that has followed her the rest of her life, Godet said. DeJoseph herself addressed the court about her crippling substance use that led her to try to bring in papers soaked in synthetic cannabinoids to her former drug dealer at Wyatt. I couldn't look myself in the mirror for many, many years. I was slowly dying inside. I truly believed I was meant to live a life of misery, DeJoseph said. She is convinced, she said, that if she hadn't been arrested in July 2024, she would now be dead. She is grateful and now leads a life of honesty. Now I can look in the mirror and see a woman of grace, dignity, and honor, DeJoseph, 51, a mother of 2 teen boys, said. Tale of redemption. Leandra Ellis, now 20 years sober, spoke of DeJoseph entering recovery as a broken person. She came in full of fear, remorse, Ellis said. We're sick people trying to get well. She's been a leader. DeJoseph's story is one of redemption, Ellis said, in urging leniency. I want to keep her in recovery, the healing process, Ellis said. DeJoseph has been suspended from her job representing indigent families and children in Massachusetts. Her law license is also suspended, and her lawyer said she will likely be disbarred. Assistant U.S. Attorneys Julian Klein and Peter G. Rockland had sought for her to serve 12 months in prison based on the gravity of the crime. Judge orders continued treatment, community service. DeJoseph agreed in March to plead guilty to charges that she conspired to commit drug trafficking, possession with intent to distribute a controlled substance, and providing a prohibited object to an inmate. DeBose ordered her to continue treatment for substance use as well as mental health counseling. She must undergo tests for drugs and alcohol and perform 100 hours of community service. According to authorities, a man, whom Godet said supplied DeJoseph with opioids and fentanyl, being held at Wyatt, arranged for his girlfriend to deliver paper-soaked in synthetic cannabinoids to DeJoseph outside Wyatt before a December 2023 visit. Surveillance footage showed the woman handing DeJoseph a manila envelope as the two were parked on Blackstone Street outside the prison. DeJoseph entered to meet with the man in the contact room, where lawyers can speak confidentially with clients. A corrections officer searching DeJoseph's possessions flagged 10 pages of paper as suspicious after consulting with the supervisor. DeJoseph told the officer that she had just taken the pages off a printer. The officer seized the pages, which were in odd color, and refused to let DeJoseph into the prison. The pages later tested positive for synthetic cannabinoids known as K2, a persistent problem for prisons nationwide. In text shortly after, DeJoseph told the man that she couldn't drive due to her exposure to K2, the affidavit said. No visits terminated permanently. They found with drugs on them. I feel so lightheaded and messed up, DeJoseph wrote. The correctional officer who also handled the papers had to receive medical attention. DeJoseph was previously barred from visiting Wyatt after the prison found text messages between DeJoseph and the man on a wire-issued tablet in which she had sent him personal photos of herself and screenshots of sports betting transactions she appeared to have made on his behalf, authorities alleged. Federal authorities arrested and charged Joseph along with 3 others. Article by Patrick Anderson. IGT rebranded as lottery-only Brightstar. The company born in Rhode Island as G-Tech that has effectively run the state lottery under the name International Game Technology, IGT, for the last decade will now be known as Brightstar. The rebranding, announced Tuesday, June 17th, stems from the pending breakup of IGT's lotteries business from its casino game businesses. In a deal struck last year that is expected to close in July, private equity firm Apollo Global Management agreed to buy IGT's name, slot machine, digital gaming, and sports betting operations while taking them private. The publicly traded lottery company that remains, and whose United States operations are based on Memorial Boulevard in Providence, will continue to fulfill its obligations to Rhode Island under the 20-year lottery deal it entered into with the state in 2021, including providing slot machines to the state's 2 casinos under a joint venture with Bally's. The deal also requires the company to employ 1,100 workers in the Ocean State. For us, it's a bit of a back-to-the-future moment, and we're more aligned with the company that G-Tech was before it was required from Lottomatica. Robert Vincent, chairperson of Brightstar, said about the spin-off deal and newly branded lottery business. As for why the name Brightstar, Senior Vice President of Marketing Wendy Montgomery said it was to convey optimism about the future of lotteries. The bright star, to us, really captures the essence of optimism that we feel about the industry, our leadership position, and really to being a guiding light to our customers, Montgomery said. As for what the sale and rebrand means for Rhode Island, Vincent said there won't be dramatic changes in the short term beyond a new sign going up on the downtown Providence office building. However, in the reorganization of the company post-sale, Brightstar plans to focus operations in Rhode Island, including a West Greenwich office as well as Providence, rather than some of the other places it has facilities. This is good news for Rhode Island because we will be concentrating our efforts here in the state, Vincent said, whereas before we had a large presence in Nevada, California, Canada, and Rome, which will remain obviously, but this will become our principal headquarters. And as such, we will be looking to relocate services and personnel or positions that were in other areas. That doesn't necessarily mean an increase in net Rhode Island employee count. On several occasions over the last few years, IGT has missed its contractual headcount target. Keeping IGT's offices in Rhode Island drove state leaders' enthusiasm for signing the company to an exclusive 20-year lottery contract without a bidding process, and Vincent suggested that contract may be what has kept the company here. I think it is something the state can look on as good development and probably a direct outcome of the 20-year management agreement they entered into, Vincent said. A company like ours can operate from anywhere, and with all the obligation and commitments we've made to Rhode Island, and they've made to us, this is where we're consolidating our efforts. The company also manages the state's sports betting operations under a separate and much shorter exclusive contract that expires in 2026. That will continue until the contract expires, but the company's focus on traditional lottery management make it even more likely Rhode Island will seek proposals for new and multiple sports betting vendors for its next contract. When searching for a new name, did the company consider going back to G-Tech? Quote, there was a lot of discussion and a lot of employees for G-Tech, but even though we did consider that, we decided we wanted to be thinking about the future, Montgomery said. Vincent, quote, it didn't make sense to go back to the old name just for the sake of going back to it because there was sentimental value. People in the news. Actor reveals right arm has completely stopped working. Eric Dane is sharing a sobering update on his battle with ALS. In an interview with Diane Sawyer on Good Morning America, the Grey's Anatomy star, 52, revealed his right arm has stopped functioning after he was diagnosed with ALS. "I have one functioning arm," he said. "My left side is functioning. My right side has completely stopped working." The actor added that his left arm is also going, and he estimated that he has a few more months before I won't have my left hand either, a fact he called sobering. Dane also said he's worried about his legs, though he's currently not having issues with walking. Dane played Mark Sloan, a.k.a. McSteamy, on ABC's Grey's Anatomy from 2006 to 2012 and is currently starring as Cal Jacobs on HBO's Euphoria. He's set to reprise the role of Cal in the upcoming third session of Euphoria. Dane first shared his ALS diagnosis in a statement to People magazine in April. According to the Mayo Clinic, ALS is a nervous system disease that affects nerve cells in the brain and spinal cord and causes a loss of muscle control. Symptoms of the disease can include difficulty walking, tripping and falling, hand weakness, and slurred speech. B-52's Devo announced joint 11-city tour. Two iconic bands hailing from the 70s are coming together for a limited run this fall. Devo and the B-52s announced their 11-city Cosmic De-Evolution Tour on June 16th, with the tour starting in late September. The joint tour comes after both bands have performed farewell tours. The B-52s concluded its retirement tour in November 2022 and has had a residency in the Venetian Theater in Las Vegas, Nevada since. And Devo will finish its 50 Years of De-Evolution tour in November after extending the tour. Cher's son hospitalized following alleged drug overdose. Elijah Blue Almond, the son of Cher and Greg Almond, has been hospitalized following an apparent drug overdose. Almond, 48, was admitted to a medical facility on June 14th after San Bernardino's Sheriff's Department deputies responded to a Landers, California residence regarding a man who was acting erratically, the department said in a June 16th statement to USA Today. When they arrived, Almond was being evaluated by medical personnel. Deputies later found drugs inside the home, according to the department. An investigation is ongoing. TMZ was the first to report the news. USA Today has reached out to Cher's representatives for comment. The incident comes a year and a half after Cher filed a request for a conservatorship for Almond, alleging he suffers from severe mental health and substance abuse issues. Article by Patrick Anderson. Rhode Island GOP says Narana's plan for the 610 soil case money is illegal. Rhode Island House Republicans believe state law prohibits Attorney General Peter Narana from channeling the proceeds of the Route 6 and 10 interchange contaminated soil lawsuit to a nonprofit for children's health initiatives. The House GOP caucus, although badly outnumbered in the General Assembly, plans to introduce an amendment to the state budget that would claw back $11 million from the settlement with Barletta Heavy Division and redirect it to a variety of other charitable causes. The core of the Republican argument that Narana has overstepped his authority rests on a section of state law dealing with the Attorney General's office, last amended in 2023, that creates an account where legal fees recovered in settlements are deposited to help pay for staff and other operational expenses of the department. All settlement proceeds that are not put in that account shall be deposited into the state's general fund, it says. The law is crystal clear. In fact, I don't think the Attorney General even argues that point. Republican Representative Brian Newberry, North Smithfield, said in a news release. Instead, his public defense of his conduct is that the Assembly cannot usurp his power, and thus he is free to ignore the statute entirely, a statute that was passed incidentally at his request to help him resolve a dispute with the governor over staffing a few years ago. Representative George Nardone, Republican of Coventry, commended Naranja for winning the settlement money, but said he saw no provision in Rhode Island law that authorizes him to redirect those funds to a private foundation. The Barletta settlement, announced May 21st, resolved a state criminal case over contaminated highway fill that Noronha brought against the Massachusetts-based contractor after it had already settled a federal civil suit 2 years ago. Under the terms of the court-approved settlement, $10 million will go to the Rhode Island Foundation to be awarded as grants that address the health needs of children residing in Providence, particularly those living near the 610 interchange and who are in need of dental care. The Attorney General's office will be part of the committee that advises the Rhode Island Foundation on how the settlement money should be awarded to achieve the goal of promoting child health. Of the remaining money, $750,000 will go to the Attorney General's office and $250,000 to the Department of Environmental Management, which investigated the case. Noronha's office did not respond to a general question about the settlement law in May, but on June 16th called the GOP budget amendment a stunt that, unlike his settlement, sought to tackle glaring deficiencies in child health. Rhode Island faces many challenges. My office attempts to tackle any and all of those challenges within the confines of our authority. Meanwhile, others, like Representative Newberry and Representative Nadone, remain silent and have done nothing, Noronha wrote in response to the GOP. Bottom line, directing funds from the resolution of a criminal case brought by this office and authorized by a court to solve severe and unmet oral health needs for Providence children is well within the authority of my office, he added. Governor Dan McKee, who has sparred repeatedly with Noronha in recent years, and General Assembly leaders who would have been able to spend the settlement money if it were sent to the general fund, have been silent on the legality of sending it to the Rhode Island Foundation. I don't know a lot about it, House Speaker K. Joseph Shekarchi told reporters June 10th when asked whether the settlement was legal. I'm not challenging it at this time, and I do accept it right at this moment. The answer is yes. And there's nothing in the budget or nothing planned by House leadership to take any action. Quite frankly, I don't know if we can, and I haven't had a chance to look at it, end quote. McKee's office has not responded to multiple inquiries about the settlement since May. The State House of Representatives was slated to take up the state budget Tuesday, June 17th. Republican budget amendments traditionally have an extremely low success rate and typically serve to raise public awareness of issues more than change the law. If the GOP amendment were successful, it would redirect the settlement money evenly between the Economic Progress Institute, Rhode Island Kids Count, Arthur E. Coia Scholarship and Education Fund at the Laborers International Union of North America, Women's Fund of Rhode Island, Progresso Latino, United Way of Rhode Island, the Rhode Island Dental Association, the Rhode Island Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals, Save the Bay, and Crossroads Rhode Island and Sojourner House. Rhode Island House approves bill to end payday lending, article by Catherine Gregg. Legislation to repeal the law that has allowed payday lenders to charge annualized percentage rates of 260% for a short-term loan is making headway in both the House and Senate for the first time. Without any debate, the House approved the legislation H. 5042 on a unanimous vote on June 16th. The bill is headed for a Senate committee vote a day later. For other lenders, Rhode Island law caps the maximum interest of small loans at 36% annual percentage rates for loans of $300 or less, with lower rates for larger loans. Advocates have been seeking repeal since at least 2006 of the exemption to this rate cap that lawmakers carved out for the industry that provides short-term rollover loans at higher annualized rates than state allows other lenders. And they have failed year after year in the face of pushback from an industry that for years has been represented on Smith Hill by former House Speaker William J. Murphy, the $30,000 a year lobbyist for Purpose Financial Incorporated, which does business as Advanced America. The House passed the repeal at the tail end of 2023 session, leading Murphy to issue this statement on behalf of his client. Quote, "Financial freedom of choice to access credits for hundreds of Rhode Islanders who utilize our product will be eliminated by the House. My heart goes out to our great employees who will lose their jobs as a result of passage of this legislation." End quote. The bill stalled out in the Senate that year. At a legislative hearing this year, Purpose Financial's Julie Townsend told legislators this bill would deny Rhode Islanders access to the regulated short-term small-dollar credit on which they occasionally rely. It would also result in the closure of all 8 of Advance America's storefronts in the state. According to data from the Federal Reserve, 4 in 10 Americans do not have $400 to cover an unexpected expense without selling something or borrowing money, she said. House Bill 5042 would do nothing to address Rhode Islanders' financial needs. Instead, it would eliminate a regulated credit option. But the majority of those who spoke at the House Corporations Committee hearing on the bill in March echoed Alan Krinsky's Director of Research and Fiscal Policy for the Economic Progress Institute of Rhode Island, and reiterated this oft-heard argument. Quote, "Payday loans, such as those permitted in Rhode Island, are high-cost loans structured to perpetuate an ongoing cycle of debt." End quote. The lawmakers also heard from former Central Falls Council President Jessica Vega on how she got trapped. At the time, it seemed like a quick and easy solution. I walked in, showed my ID, and walked out with cash. No real questions asked. But when it came time to pay off the loan, I quickly realized that my financial situation hadn't changed from 2 weeks prior. Asking for an extension only meant that the interest doubled. Eventually, I was working 2 jobs just to cover my expenses and keep up with the payments. I even found myself taking out a loan from another payday lender just to pay off the first one. This year's bill contains an effective date of January 1, 2027. It also contains a provision aimed at stopping end runs. It says, quote, "No person may engage in any device, subterfuge, or pretense to evade the law by making loans disguised as personal property sales and leaseback transactions, or as cash rebates for the pretextual installment sale of goods or services, or help a borrower obtain a loan with greater rate of interest through any method including mail, telephone, internet, or any electronic means." This is Sharon, and I've been reading from the Providence Journal. Have a great day.